like to call the Saline City Council meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have two items on the counter tonight that actually belong with two agenda items. The first one, the local governing body resolution, belongs with 12-132, which is under consent, which is the gaming license. And the second item, which is the right-of-way, belongs with the linear trail, which is item 10-181, and they're just for information purposes. And do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Move Morrow, second Terhar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizens may come forward at this time and make comment or question on items that appear on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record.
Glenn Law, 521 Canterbury Drive. Speaking in reference to the non-motorized pathway, I certainly am a supporter of non-motorized pathways and certainly encourage the city to continue to pursue those whenever possible. However, I wanted to make my opinion known that I hope that in the process of this being taken up, that residents around the area were made aware of this and certainly heard about it and had some input. I know it's been a touchy issue before when we had one go behind the library near the mobile home park, but just wanted to make sure that the residents have their voices heard on this and that for all intents and purposes everyone is pretty much comfortable and has been made aware of this. So thank you.
Is there any other citizen comments on agenda items? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion or the request of any citizens or council member. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion.
Mayor, I'll move for the consent agenda as amended by removing C12-132.
Okay. Put that under new business after 12-138. We have a motion by Mr. Gearbaugh. Do we have a second to approve and adopt as amended?
Support.
Support Rhodes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under unfinished business, we have item 10-181, which is the Library Brecken non-motorized path, which is the award of the contract. So it'd be a motion to acknowledge receipt of a September 6, 2012 memo from Public Works Director Fordyce to award or not award the construction contract to Pavex Corporation in the amount of $202,481.02 for the Library Brecken non-motorized path, contingent upon their submission of satisfactory bonds and insurance, to authorize or not authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the contract documents for this project after review and approval by the city attorney.
Move to award and authorize.
Second.
Move Rhodes, second Terhar. Well, hello.
Hi.
How'd you know I was going to call on you?
Just assumed.
Great, thank you, Mr. Fordyce.
So we've been working with the library for a while on designing a pathway that would connect from Maple Road over to Harris Street. The alignment will take it along the southern edge of the library property, and then it'll swing slightly north up into Brecken Park, travel along the southern edge of Brecken Park, and then swing to the south on a leased portion of the railroad right-of-way, and end at Harris Street, right across the street from the existing depot trail. And we'll install a crosswalk at that location. Midwestern Consulting did the design work and put together the bid package. We opened 4 bids on September 4th, last week. And the low responsive bid was submitted by Pavex. And the contract documents had two options that we bid to extend the pathway a little bit, create extra connections. And at this time, recommending awarding alternate number 1, which takes the new proposed pathway and connects it to the Brecken Park parking lot on Harris Street and to the existing pathways within the park. Alternate 2 was a connection at the eastern end of the park that would connect this trail up to Watson, the existing sidewalk on Watson. But given the price level we're at right now, not recommending award of that option.
Questions from council? Mr. Peters?
Yeah, the pathway on alternate 1, if we attach this to the existing park pathway, the existing park pathway is only maybe 4 or 5 feet wide.
Correct.
There's still want to be a 10-foot wide path. And
Yeah.
would they have to demolition that existing path and put a new one in?
We're going to taper in to the existing pathway at that point. When the non-motorized transportation plan was put together, we came up with some design standards in there that we thought worked for Saline and also complied with AASHTO recommendations. So the design standard that we had there was 10-foot wide outside of the right-of-way and 8-foot wide within the right-of-way. So the new stuff we're installing will be 10 feet wide, and then when we get to the point where we're meeting the existing, we're just going to taper down to that existing width.
I'm sure you've considered this, but how do we keep illegal motorized vehicles off, cars, snowmobiles, ATVs, any thoughts to that?
We are not installing anything that would keep them off, but at the connection at each end very much looks like a sidewalk. The crosswalk at Harris is going to have standard ADA-approved ramps, so it'll have the color block with the detectable warnings on it. It's going to be marked as a crosswalk. It will not look like a driveway. At the Maple Road end of it, there won't be a ramp into the street at all. It's just going to connect to the existing sidewalk. So there won't be anything that will physically prevent somebody from driving down it. And indeed, we're going to drive snow removal equipment down it. But I think at each end, it'll be quite obvious that it is a pathway and not a roadway.
Okay. Well, I'm all for this kind of a project. I think it's wonderful, but I do agree with the comment we had during citizens' comment here from Mr. Lau that we may want to have some more input from our citizens. We move further down the line with this total plan.
Mr. Gearbox?
Just some minor questions. You said there were some minor errors on the bid document from PAVEC. Just curious because they are the lowest bid, and what was that issue?
It's just math errors. The way the bid is put together is this one had, I think, 85 bid items, and each of those is an estimated quantity, a unit price, and then an extended price. There were a couple of locations where the extended price did not match the unit price times the quantity. But within the contract documents, it states that the unit price is the bid.
Okay.
So I simply corrected for that and actually reduced the bid by about $3,000.
The only other thing I wanted to say was, I know there are concerns about neighbors and such, but I believe the way that the placement of this is moved it out of the right-of-way of the railroad, and so it put it more farther onto his property away from mobile homes, which I think was a better plan and solution. So I think it's a little more space between the
Yeah, there's significant separation from the residential properties to the south of the library and the park. We won't be in that area south of the park. We won't be anywhere near rear yards.
right. And the buffer's a lot larger than it has been proposed
Yeah.
in the past. So.
Yeah, much larger.
Mr. Rhodes?
I wanted to congratulate and thank everybody who was involved in this process over the years that planning started and now coming to fruition. Non-motorized transportation is one of the primary goals of the city, and I'm heartily support that, and I think we should continue to look for other opportunities that arise so that we can be more of a walkable bicycling community in a friendly area. And for those who haven't seen the budget, it's appropriate, I think, that the funding for this came from 4 different sources, so it was not an undue burden on anybody. The city has some money in, the county has some money in, the library has some money in, and our local CARES millage has some money in. And I think that's the way we need to get non-motorized pathways and other programs moving forward. So again, thank you all.
Is there further questions? I have a question. So we are doing alternate number 1, and what is going to happen with the rest of the phase around through closer to the easement? That the rest of the sidewalk that you're taking out? Is there a plan for that?
A future plan
Right.
for the alternate number 2? Nothing concrete at this point, just, another project on the books for future consideration.
So I guess my question is, currently, are we going to create a crosswalk there?
Oh, the alternate that I'm suggesting we don't include is that stretch that goes up to Watson.
Oh, I see.
That's the part that won't be built.
Okay.
But the remaining that's shown on that sheet, it'll be a full connection from Maple all the way
Okay.
to Harris. And then what some have referred to as the highway interchange design of where that kind of triangular area, that's the alternate number 1.
Okay, and I would also agree with, well, I assume the Parks Commission has been, we've been talking about this pathway for a long time. And to Mr. Rhodes' point, I'd actually be even more clear that we had a budget of $233,000. The bid is $202,000, and $80,000 is coming from straight city budget, the TIF money, and $60,000 is coming from the county, $70,000 is coming from the library, and then $20,000 is coming from a grant. So it's a very, I think, equitable spread throughout the community. So I would totally agree with what you pointed out. I
And
appreciate that.
If I could point out, the library actually, their total contribution will end up being 80 also. They put some of the upfront money for design work.
Okay, is there any further questions on the motion? All in favor to award this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 1284, What So Proudly We Hail Flagpole Project. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the August 23rd, 2012 letter and check in the amount of $283 from George Perot, Pete Belair, and Bob Kwasinski, who are all here in the audience. Thank you. Vietnam Veterans of America, representing donations received from the What So Proudly We Hail project to be deposited in the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund and earmarked for repairs, maintenance of the Flagpole Memorial area, and to thank these 3 men and all the generous donors who contributed to this project to bring it to fruition. Do we have a motion?
I make the motion to accept the receipt.
Move Roth, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morrow?
Second Morrow, thank you. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second motion is to acknowledge receipt of the August 23rd, 2012 letter from George Perot, Pete Belair, and Bob Kwasinski, Vietnam Veterans of America, regarding installation of the memorial stone at the base of the flagpole in Oakwood Cemetery, to approve or not approve the installation of the 14-inch by 11-inch memorial stone at the base of the new flagpole in Oakwood Cemetery, and to authorize or not authorize the Saline DPW to install the foundation and memorial stone.
Move to approve and authorize.
Second.
Morrell, second to Har, to approve and authorize. Discussion? Mr. Rhodes?
Just, once again, I wanted to thank these 3 gentlemen for taking the lead and starting the program here to get the improvements down to Oakwood Cemetery. Thank you very much.
Mr. Roth?
I echo the same thing. I certainly appreciate everything they've done out in the cemetery.
I think that would be a unanimous thank you from the community as a whole, and especially the city council. Further discussion on this motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, item 12-133, this is a transfer location of small winemaker license Vintner Cellar. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the September 6, 2012 memo from City Clerk Hill, and the August 15, 2012 memo from Police Chief Rinnick, September 6, 2012 memo from Treasurer Bennett, the September 4th, 2012 memo from Fire Chief Heft, and the August 31st, 2012 memo from Building Inspector Taylor to recommend to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission at the request of Vintner Cellar of Saline LLC, DBA Spotted Dog Winery, to transfer the location of their small winemaker license from 100 East Michigan Avenue, Suite 108, to 1100 Woodland Drive East, Saline, to be approved or not approved.
Move to approve.
Second.
Move Rhodes, second Roth. Discussion. Mr. Rhodes.
It's a bit of a bittersweet moment here because Spotted Dog Winery has expanded and need more space, and I'm thankful for that and congratulate them, but I'm sorry to see them leave their downtown location. Best of luck in the future.
Mr. Harvey.
Yes, I'd like to echo Mr. Rhodes' sentiments and also say thank you to Mr. Olson for everything he and his company have done for downtown Saline. Thanks a lot.
I think that would also be a unanimous thank you from City Council and the community, because are you going to stay involved with the downtown merchants? Okay, great. Is there further discussion on this motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12-134, this is a vending agreement with Saline Area Schools. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the August 29th, 2012 memo from Parks and Recreation Director Scruggs to approve or not approve renewal and extension of the partnership with Saline Area Schools Young Adult Program for 3 years for vending services at the Saline Rec Center, and to authorize or not authorize the mayor or clerk to execute the vending services agreement, Exhibit A, with Saline Area Schools after review and approval by the city attorney.
Move to approve and authorize.
Second.
Second.
Well, I'll move to her, second Rhodes, since that was sort of
Thank you.
unanimous. To approve and authorize is what I heard, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Scruggs, would you like to come up and? I think it's a great collaboration that you have going there, so it'd be great to talk about it.
Yes, definitely. The vending with the schools is actually, I call it a triple win. The young adult program gets to use this as job training for their students, and they also make money for their program, and we get a small commission as well. Their service is excellent. They're there almost every single day. At any time of the day we can call and they can come out and either fix a machine or deal with if something's wrong with it. And it's a great program. And we've been doing this for a couple of years, and we just felt like this is here to stay. They're doing a great job. That program is going to continue. So we'd like to go beyond 1 year renewals, just do a 3-year renewal, reevaluate after 3 years. But I really think this is here to stay.
Okay, any questions?
What's the revenue generated, basically?
Each quarter, this is really loud, each quarter about $800, so in a year about $3,000. Summer, we haven't gotten our summer commissions rectified yet, but I'm sure it's going to be higher than normal because we have our kids camp that goes every single day with over 70 kids, and they're always buying things out of the vending machine, so.
Good.
Mr. Peters.
Just say I had a nephew involved with a similar program in a different school district down in Georgia, and he really enjoyed it. He took it very serious, and he got a lot out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was beneficial.
Right, and the job training is great because they're actually, they go to like Sam's Club or Gordon's or whatnot, and they have to purchase, they have to bring it back, they have to stock, they have to, deal with the money, and each student has a different job. And it is a job because you have to count correctly, you have to learn how to, put the things in correctly. So it is a really nice program.
Any further comments? Thank you. So we have a motion to approve and authorize. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12-135, the postage machine lease with Pitney Bowes. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the August 31st, 2012 memo from City Clerk Hill to approve or not approve the 60-month lease with Pitney Bowes for a DM 400 postage machine at a cost of $212 per month, and to authorize or not authorize the city manager to execute the lease agreement after review and approval by the city attorney.
Move to approve and to authorize.
Second.
Gearbox, second Morrow, to approve and to authorize. Discussion?
Again, I appreciate Mrs. Hill's review of it and the idea of saving money for the city, and I think this is a great opportunity. And I know that you said you'll be doing trials on it, and if it doesn't work out, we'll look at other options. But thanks very much for doing that.
Mr. Roth?
I just have a question for my information is, how much do we save by having a machine on the actual postage?
Actual postage, we have to still pay the rate that the post office charges. We do have bulk mailing rates that we do utilize when we have large mailings. I can't even tell you. I know my ballots go out for like 16 cents on bulk rate. So I know we're saving there. That's where the savings are, is with the bulk mailing.
It's a good tool for,
Pardon me?
it's a good labor-saving tool.
Yes, yeah,
So it'd be saving there likewise.
correct. We aren't licking stamps and putting them on, yeah. Mr. Har had a question earlier today about the feed was less than what we currently have, the thickness of the mail that can go through that. And as I explained to her, we don't really put thicker items through. Usually those get weighed and the postage then gets put on manually accordingly. And she was concerned about the FYI being put through the machine, but that's a bulk mailing and that's handled differently. So even though we lose just a little bit of capacity, we don't do a lot of letters per minute going through to make that difference. And the thickness, we always have to weigh those anyway, and they always get a strip put on them. So I don't think we're losing anything by stepping down a little bit.
Thanks,
Except saving money.
which is a good thing.
Any other questions or comments on this motion? If not, we have a motion to approve and authorize. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under item 12-138, this is a superminority constitutional amendment. This will be a motion to approve and adopt or not adopt the resolution supporting a no vote on the superminority constitutional amendment on the November 6, 2012 general election ballot. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve and adopt.
I second.
Move Rhodes, second Roth. And I don't know, Mr. Campbell, would you like to talk about this a little bit and where this came from and why we're making a statement about this
Sure
regarding
thing.
a resolution? And then we'll have a chance for all council to step up too.
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. Defend Michigan democracy through the Michigan Municipal League, so some of you may have received something on your email or not, but we all may be aware, there's a number of ballot items. Initially, I think there was up to 6 that were having to do with amending the state constitution. I believe 3 so far have been taken to the Michigan Supreme Court, and they've been allowed to rule that they're going to be on the November 6th ballot. And this one is Proposal 5 has been voted or has been ruled by the Michigan Supreme Court that it qualifies to be on the ballot. Essentially, depending on how you spin it, but it's talking about, they call it the supermajority rule for deciding on tax issues. So if there's an increase in tax, for instance, for forever, if you will, almost since we've had a constitution, I believe, at least certainly since the '63 Constitution, majority has ruled as opposed to supermajority. And with this particular proposal, out of both houses, the House of Representatives and the State Senate, even if 110 members of the House and 25 out of 38 senators voted for a tax increase, a minority of 13 senators could block it. And so, as the governor has very simplistically but eloquently said, it's been working for all these years. Our democracy has been working by majority rule, so we don't believe that we should change it. So, in a kind of a buzz statement that I've taken out of there, so it's not I can't claim it, but attempting to hijack the state's democracy of majority rule is what they've said. So, certainly, it could, to me, from an operational standpoint, could really hinder the process in Lansing. And this is not, I mean, very seriously not, this is not a hit on them, but they have serious process problems as it is. They don't need anything else to be hindered. So, again, I'd mentioned to the mayor, references after Michigan Municipal League and the Defend Michigan Democracy has sent this out. Councilmember Roth and Police Chief Rinnick and I attended a press conference a week and a half ago in Lansing to hear how this would impact, and actually they had initially they had appealed it. The group, the Defend Michigan Democracy, had appealed to the State Board of Canvassers, and it was originally removed, but then they appealed to the State Supreme Court and were victorious in getting it placed on the ballot.
Is there any comments or questions from any council? I think for those of you that are going to the MML conference in a couple weeks, you'll learn a lot more about it, but definitely would bog down our democracy and really change the tone. And I think the states that are utilizing this method of making decisions are not very effective, and that's pretty much been proven. So hopefully when the voters go to the ballot, they'll understand it. That's a big issue because there's a lot of misunderstanding based on things that are out in the mail. I learned that from other things that are out in the mail. But at any rate, it's really important to, I think, the effectiveness of our state.
Well, the other, if I might, the other one last thing, one comment I would say is the other concern is that if lobbyists and special interests only have 13 legislators to have an impact on them to change their mind, that could give them even more power and control than they already do have in Lansing.
Mr. Gearbox.
And that's what I was going to agree to. The more you try to concentrate it under a few individuals, the more or less government moves forward. And we have a representative government in which, if we find fault with who's in there right now, we can elect to vote them out within every 2 years. So at this point, I think that's a more appropriate approach, a more democratic approach. And this attempt to try and do this is more short-sighted than looking towards the future. We've done a lot of things in the last few years that I think are going to be detrimental to the state, and this would be just another one that would add to the whole problem.
Further discussion on this motion? Okay, this is a motion to approve and adopt the resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, 132, this is a motion to acknowledge receive the August 23rd, 2012 memo from Cindy Zupko, Saline Main Street, requesting that Saline Main Street be recognized as a nonprofit organization operating in the community to be eligible to apply for a charitable gaming license from the state of Michigan, to approve and adopt the local governing body resolution for charitable gaming licenses, recognizing Saline Main Street as a nonprofit organization operating in Saline for the purpose of obtaining charitable gaming licenses. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve and adopt.
Second.
Move Gearbox, second Peters. Mr. Gearbox, you had.
Yeah, the reason why I removed it, I know there are a couple other issues that, actually, I just learned yesterday that the sister cities and some other individual organizations had tried to do some of the raffling or something like that, and unfortunately, when they went to the state, they would not be allowed to do this. I just learned that from Councilmember Roth yesterday. What I'm just curious is a little more of this understanding of what the resolution, the other one that we just received tonight, if you could explain that, is there a little more? The application I got was fine. That goes in and...
Ms. Hill can speak to that.
That is the resolution that is required by the state of Michigan. It just got omitted from the packet. It didn't get through our automatic feed. It was actually supposed to be in your packet. That is the adopting resolution that goes to the State Lottery Commission from the City Council saying that you authorize that.
Yeah, my hope on this is that we should be able to use some of our other organizations, so Cindy's not here tonight, but potentially if the sister cities or something like that, as we work through these aspects, we don't have to use another outside organization that maybe will consider them and they review through it, but however that works.
I think some of our sister cities, I think both of them may have this license. They don't?
No,
We can't obtain it.
Oh, okay, I thought you did. All right.
No, we've tried and failed.
Oh.
So I see this as a
Okay.
bigger solution for all of our organizations, because I know that even though people may have their issues with gambling and such, a lot of these little things do help during some of the events and basically help to encourage other aspects of our community events.
Further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, under discussion, we have commission and committee reports from council members. Do you have any? It's been a while. It's not holiday weekend. Reports and other announcements? Mr. Rhodes, sorry.
It's okay. I have two, one of which everybody here on council already knows, but for the public purpose, the Saline Area Sustainability Circle has, the remaining members voted to put that into an inactive status for now due to a lack of an immediate item that needs attention and lack of interest on the part of the participating municipalities. It has not been shut down or closed out. It's just inactive and can be pulled back at any time based on request from the members. Then the second item that I had was I participated in the Michigan Municipal League Economic Development and Land Use Committee meeting in Lansing on Friday. There were 11 items on the agenda that we talked about, and for those who may not know, this committee mostly looks at proposed House and Senate bills in the state legislature and then votes to take a position, an MML position, on those of supporting or opposing or being neutral. So I don't want to take time to run through all of those, but one that generated a fair amount of discussion, and it has not been actually introduced as a bill yet, but a couple of representatives are thinking about it, and that is to remove the right of eminent domain from the utilities so that they would have to work with the local municipalities if they wanted to do something within a municipality. Don't know if that will develop legs or not, but certainly had a lot of interest at the committee. And if there's someone who would like more information about the others that we talked about, I'd be happy to meet with them. Thank you.
Mr. Hart.
There is a meeting tomorrow evening for the planning the South Central Washtenaw District Advisory Committee for the countywide transit plan. That will be held at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening at the Saline Senior Center. The area that's covered is City of Saline, City of Milan, York, and Lodi, and Saline Townships. And the public is invited to come and listen to what's been discussed so far and also to provide input.
And then also on the 13th, the Watts Long Range Transportation Plan, is that here at City Hall? You know where that meeting is?
Yes, I think so.
I believe so.
So that's another plan for the long range. That's not transit, that's the transportation system. So it's the coordinated, integrated plan of transit, non-motorized road and bridges, and everything else. So I think that's here, right? Do you know what time it is? I forgot. 7? Anyhow, it should be on the city website calendar. I had Todd and I met this afternoon with Tom Foley from the Saline River Properties regarding the status of his lawsuit. As we talked about last week, the lawsuit was unsuccessful. It was the judge actually ignored the violations that Johnson Controls is currently doing as far as they're not cleaning up. And basically the lawsuit was to enforce a 2003 consent judgment from the EPA. And pretty much the judge abdicated all responsibility in court about making a decision as to whether or not it should be enforced. So they're interested in appealing that, and so we talked to them today about the different methodologies for doing that, and they will be getting back to us. JCI has admitted that the property is contaminated. It's a significant problem that we have because we're basically at a standstill. The current property owner can't really do anything with the property because it's not contaminated by the current property owner, and the EPA isn't enforcing the consent agreement and also the corrective action plan. So hopefully the appeal will be processed here in the next couple of weeks, and you guys will be hearing back. The attorney said that what he said was instead of removing their environmental footprint, they have dug in their heels and dragged their feet. And so JCI is not, at this point in time, feeling that they need to do anything, and that I guess the judge has said that they can clean up when they feel like it, basically. And so we need to go back. I have also suggested that the city, would work from our angle, which is our legislators, and go directly to the people in Washington and try to get some momentum from that direction from our congressmen and any other alternatives that might be available to us, because this is really actually not something that we have control over, but it is a very disappointing decision by the judge, and the attorney feels that it sets a very bad precedent that will affect other cases. The fact that Johnson Controls is aware that it has cleanup duties there and is not moving forward on them. So I will keep you posted. I don't know, Mr. Campbell, if you have anything else to report, but I think they were quite disappointed and shocked at the level of, like I said, abdication of responsibility of making some kind of enforcement on the polluters. Mr. Gearbox.
Mayor, I hope when we're looking at our legislative representatives in Washington, we're looking more towards our senators. I do not have the confidence in our current congressmen to basically put this as a priority. I would make more expectations from our senators.
Okay. Well, I was planning on making a couple calls with some folks and see, we're basically talking about trying to do a two-pronged attack from the city side, trying to get the legislators involved, and from the property owner side, trying to get an appeal organized, and talking to some environmental organizations that have some financial wherewithal, because one of the problems is that this is costing so much money for the property owner that they can't, there comes a point where you can't move forward. So we're not there yet, but it's a very difficult situation,
right.
Very disappointing.
And considering that it's so close to flowing water and those issues, I would hope that would be made a priority. If not, we as a city need to make it a priority and basically start making it quite clear to the Johnson Controls that we will not accept the status quo.
I think if the EPA can't make them clean it up, I don't know what.
But as a community, when you're an environmental hazard and you're trying to sell products, the consumers will speak.
If I might just add briefly, one of the frustrations is that the EPA, while they do have a consent order, this is since 2003, approximately 2003, 2004, to have it cleaned up, and while the EPA has, again, they have the corrective measures plan from Johnson Controls in place, but they just haven't done it, and they don't. It appears that the EPA does not have the resources to push on them to get it done. This is, I believe, the third or fourth case manager for this project. It appears again that the case manager will retire, the next one in line, and then that one will retire, and the next one. So this is, I believe this is the third or fourth one that's being handed off to since, again, as I said, since 2003, 2004.
So we'll hope to report something back next week, but I don't know how much we're going to get done in a week here, but just want to get you up to speed on the meeting we had today. Is there any other discussion items? Not. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time, make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mary Hess, 600 Canterbury. I want to mention I listened to a council meeting talking about enforcing parking uptown. And the Downtown Diner is probably the 4th restaurant that has tried to be there. And I've been fortunate, they even brought me a sandwich Sunday afternoon. They're hardworking people. And what I heard was, we don't want to enforce the parking. And I think that is a shame, because these people are working very hard, and that parking is very, very important for their business. And we are business-oriented. And when you say, well, we don't want to enforce the parking because the people might not come back again, I guess that means we're not going to enforce speed limits downtown, because heaven forbid if they get a ticket, they might not come back to Saline again. Number one parking lot is very busy. And I think that you go through to the beauty shop and that area, in fact, I'd like to see it have a handicap parking. I've been quite accustomed to find out where the handicap parking is, and it's way down by the church and way up by Saline and Arbor Road. And I think it does warrant. And I would like to see that the parking be enforced. It is an ordinance, it is a law. And that doesn't mean we pick and choose. In fact, I made the comment. The reason the scales of justice is blindfolded because the law applies to everyone, not just my friends or my relatives. And I would hope that somehow you can work with these businesses that are in that area. The other thing is, do you know that Michigan has the highest load limit of the United States? And of course, that goes back to the old Ford, the car dealerships when they wanted to get all the things. But I have talked numerous times as far as our load limits being the highest and our roads falling apart. I would hope that the council would maybe look into that because there's no reason in this area. Thank you.
Everybody got one?
Working on it.
Oh, it's coming. I've learned to wait till this gets done because otherwise nobody knows what I'm talking about. Mary LaRonas, 373 West Bennett. I would like to comment on the action taken at the August 20 meeting to remove restrictions on selling wholesale water for projects within the city limits. At present, this is completely appropriate. I would like to encourage council to continue not selling wholesale water to any company outside our city limits, especially any company engaged in fracking. Saline citizens are very fortunate that our wells have produced an adequate supply of good consumable water. We should not press our luck by selling large amounts of water. Especially, we should not sell water that will never return for reuse. As has been said many times, we are using the same water the dinosaurs used. No new water has been created since the beginning of this planet, and it never will be. To that end, I would call your attention to point number 1 in the excellent summary on fracking created by the Food and Water Watch. A single fracking well can require more than 1 million gallons of water. And then point 2 regarding chemical contamination of the water. This water can never be used again for humans to consume it. Fracking companies put it in deep injection wells. Future generations will run short of water if we contaminate what we have beyond use. Thank you.
Is there any other citizen comments? Okay, is there any other business to come before the city council? Not, our next meeting actually is next week. We have a work session at 6:30 and our regular meeting's at 7:30. And then the next meeting after that is October 1st, October 15th. We don't have any excuses. Do we have a motion to adjourn at 8:17?
So moved. Second.
Move Morrow. Second. Dr. Beerbach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.